Reinaldo Javier Rivera, born September 13, 1963, is a Spanish-born American serial killer who abducted, awed and killed 4 women in South Carolina and Georgia between 1999 and 2000, all in the Augusta metropolitan area. He was convicted in one of those deaths and sentenced to death in the latter state, where he still remains on death row. Rivera was born in Madrid, Spain, to the family of a doctor. Rivera and his family moved to Puerto Rico when he was 7 years old. At age 19, he joined the United States Navy, serving in Orlando, Florida and San Diego, California. As an adult between December 1986 and March 1991, Rivera worked for the Joint Chiefs of Staff in Washington, D.C., attending the University of South Carolina, where he earned a degree in office administration. He previously resided in Graniteville, Columbia and Fayetteville, North Carolina, before settling in North Augusta. On Valentine's Day in 1993, he married Tammy Lisa Bonnet and had 2 children. By 1998, Rivera acquired a job as a tire inspector for the Firestone Tire and Rubber Company in Aiken. On July 17, 1999, 17-year-old Melissa Faye Dingus from Graniteville, South Carolina, vanished without a trace. In the ensuing searches, deputies from the Aiken County Sheriff's Office reported that a girl matching Dingus's description was seen on 2 occasions, accompanied by an older white male with dark hair. She entered a tan older model vehicle in the first instance, and in the second a bright red 4-door one. On October 13, 2000, her skeletal remains were found in the woods off the I-20 near Harlem, 7 miles west of the Savannah River, after Rivera gave police directions to the burial site. On December 4, 17-year-old Tiffany Cherise Wilson from Jackson went missing while she and her 2-month-old daughter Caitlin were visiting a Winn-Dixie grocery store in North Augusta. A car was found in the parking lot, with witnesses seeing her enter a mid-1980s white 4-door Ford, which had stopped briefly and sped off quickly. 3 days later, Caitlin was found abandoned in a car in front of a Georgia Welcome Center across the state border. Suspecting an abduction, the authorities searched areas along the I-20 and Highway 25, finding clothing suspected of being Wilson's. On December 30th, 2 hunters discovered the body of a young female in a heavily wooded area near Graniteville. The body was later positively identified as Wilson via her fingerprints. According to the coroners, her hands were tied behind her back. She was awed and subsequently dealt a deadly stab in the back, all while her daughter was inside the car. On June 19, 2000, 18-year-old Tabitha Lee Bosdill of Augusta, Georgia, disappeared in similar circumstances to the previous victims. According to her family members, they dropped her off at a Huddle house, where she was going to apply for a second part-time job before going to her main job as a telemarketer. Rivera was not charged with murder until October 16, when skeletal remains were positively identified as hers. The last murder was that of 21-year-old Marnie Marie Glister, a soldier at Fort Eisenhower. She was attacked in her own home on September 5, sustaining serious injuries but barely surviving. She was transported to a local hospital, where she died from said injuries 5 days later. On October 10, 2000, Rivera approached 18-year-old Chrissy Lee Barton at the parking lot of a Huddle House restaurant in North Augusta, presenting himself as the owner of an escort service and modelling agent, expressing interest in taking photos of the young lady. Barton agreed, inviting him back to her home, after which Rivera awed and stabbed her 3 times in the throat with a plastic-handled steak knife he took from the kitchen. Barton survived the assault, and with her help, investigators were eventually led to Rivera, who was hiding in a South Carolina motel. Upon discovery, he attempted to commit suicide by slashing his wrist, but was prevented by the arresting officers and sent to the Medical College of Georgia, where he was kept under suicide watch in an isolated cell. Charged with the murders of Wilson, Bosdill, and Glister, and the attempted murder of Barton, Rivera was eventually convicted solely for Glister's murder and assaulting Barton. At the end of his trial, Rivera was quoted as saying to the jurors that he was mentally ill and that doctors should study his ailment to find a cure. In addition, he said that he still fantasized about killing his victims, warning that he would do it again if released, and asked for the death penalty. He was sentenced to death for killing Glister and remains on Georgia's death row at the Georgia Diagnostic and Classification State Prison in Jackson.